We live in interesting times. Today's stories. Macron says a strong Europe is needed to prevent global chaos. Netanyahu denounces calls for snap polls as irresponsible. Republican Rick Scott wins Florida's Senate seat. U.S. citizens at the Mexico border react to deployment of the Army. Plus, we will get to know a young Filipino harpist who shares with Eagle News the story behind her passion for music and her love for the church. Hello everyone, I am Rose Papa Angeles, bringing you stories from around the globe. And this is Eagle News, Washington, D.C. French President Emmanuel Macron said Sunday in Berlin that Europe must grow stronger and more sovereign in order to fulfill its duty of preventing chaos in global affairs.
C'est en Europe que se forgent les idées de refondation du multilatéralisme commercial, sécuritaire, migratoire et environnemental. L'Europe, et en son sein le couple franco-allemand, se trouve investi de cette obligation de ne pas laisser le monde glisser dans le chaos et de l'accompagner sur le chemin de la paix. C'est pour cela que l'Europe doit être plus forte. C'est pour cela qu'elle doit être plus souveraine, parce qu'elle ne pourra jouer son rôle si elle-même devient le jouet des puissances, si elle ne prend pas davantage des responsabilités dans sa défense et sa sécurité, et se contente de jouer les seconds rôles sur la scène mondiale. Trop de puissances veulent aujourd'hui nous effacer du jeu.
Macron said it was Europe that led the push for green energy and against climate change, and which was now pursuing a multilateral approach in trade, security, migration, and environmental policy. Addressing the Bundestag, Macron called for greater European unity and self-confidence in order to meet future challenges. He said Europe must not become a plaything of great powers, must assume greater responsibility for its security and its defense, and must not accept a subordinate role in world politics. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu denounced calls for snap elections as irresponsible in an impassioned televised address on Sunday, and vowed to push on despite a coalition crisis threatening to bring down his government. As the nation looked on for word on whether Israel was headed for early polls, Netanyahu used a primetime address to defend his security credentials and make the case for why he wants to hold his coalition together.
ובתקופה כזאת לא מפילים ממשלה. בתקופה כזאת לא הולכים לבחירות. זה חוסר אחריות. יש לנו עוד שנה שלמה עד הבחירות. אנחנו בעיצומה של המערכה, ובאמצע המערכה לא נוטשים. באמצע המערכה לא משחקים בפוליטיקה.
But even as he prepared to speak, Education Minister Naftali Bennett, a key coalition partner and one of Netanyahu's main right-wing rivals, announced he would give his own statement on Monday morning. Bennett's far-right Jewish Home Party has threatened to withdraw from Netanyahu's coalition if he is not given the defense portfolio. Netanyahu said in his address that he intended to retain the defense portfolio at least for now.
שכל השותפים יגלו אחריות ולא יפילו את הממשלה. אני מאמין שצריך להמשיך יחד למען מדינת ישראל ולמען ביטחון ישראל. היום אני נכנס בפעם הראשונה לתפקיד שר הביטחון. ואני יודע שאני עושה זאת בזמן שיש ביקורת ביחס למדיניות הביטחון של ישראל.
He also spoke of his military experience and said he could not publicly explain in detail the sensitive security moves currently being taken by Israel. The longtime premier made the appearance as he came under pressure over a controversial ceasefire deal last week that ended the worst escalation between Israel and Palestinian militants in Gaza since a 2014 war. On Wednesday, Defense Minister Avigdor Lieberman resigned over the ceasefire, throwing the government into crisis and leading to speculation that early elections had become inevitable. After Lieberman's withdrawal along with his Yisrael Beitenu party, Netanyahu's government was left clinging to a one-seat majority in the 120-seat parliament. Key coalition partners say that is unworkable even though elections are not due until November 2019. Netanyahu spoke Sunday night after a crucial meeting with Finance Minister Moshe Kahlon on resolving the coalition crisis. Kahlon's office said earlier that his meeting with Netanyahu ended without a conclusion and they would meet again later in the week. In a sign of a possible agreement being worked out, a spokesman for Netanyahu's Likud party said the premier would decide on the appointment of ministers in the coming days, but provided no further details. Coming up, Republican Rick Scott wins Florida Senate seat. U.S. citizens at the Mexico border react to deployment of the Army. Welcome back. You're watching Eagle News, Washington, D.C. Official results showed Sunday Florida's outgoing Republican Governor Rick Scott has narrowly won a U.S. Senate seat in a bitterly contested race with incumbent Bill Nelson. Nelson conceded the seat he has held for 3 terms since 2001 after a machine and hand recount showed Scott had edged the Democrat by just over 10,000 votes, or 50.05% to 49.93%, official final results showed. A day earlier, Democrat Andrew Gillum conceded his hard-fought race to become the Sunshine State's first African-American governor to his Republican rival, Ron DeSantis. That race had also gone to a recount. And Stacey Abrams, who aimed to become America's first black female governor, said Friday she will not win her race to lead the state of Georgia, while still accusing her Republican rival Brian Kemp of voter suppression. President Donald Trump has repeatedly charged that Florida's election were marred by vote fraud, but state and local authorities have said there is no evidence of wrongdoing. Scott received warm congratulations from the American leader after his win. Trump tweeted, "From day one, Rick Scott never wavered. He was a great governor and will be even a greater senator in representing the people of Florida." Congratulations to Rick on having waged such a courageous and successful campaign. Scott, who governed Florida for 8 years, called for unity. He wrote, "We must do what Americans have always done, come together for the good of our state and our country. My focus will not be on looking backward, but on doing exactly what I ran on, making Washington work." People living along the border in Texas react to the Trump administration's deployment of U.S. troops in response to the Central American migrant caravan. In the city of Laredo, which faces the Mexican town of Nuevo Laredo, migration and exchanges between the two countries is part of everyday life, bringing mixed feelings to the move by the president.
Don't expect anything like that. They're already dispersing. The soldiers are needed in Tijuana. If you wanted to see the main bulk of the caravan, they're in Tijuana, a thousand miles away from here. So it's just a stunt, political stunt. That's all it is. We have international trade that has been going on between these two cities for years, and now it's just slowing it down unnecessarily. Or, let's put it this way, inefficiently. If it's necessary, then it's inefficient.
I know that they've come a long way, and I know that it's been a long journey, and it's a difficult thing for all of us, but we can't have people just storming our borders. There's always been a lot of people coming through the border at Laredo and all along the borders, all the way from here to California. And so I hope that they come in the right way. There are ways to come in legally.
The Central American migrant caravan tracking toward the United States converged on the U.S.-Mexican border Thursday after more than a month on the road. Undeterred by President Donald Trump's deployment of thousands of American troops near the border. Around 800 migrants riding on 22 buses arrived at dawn in Tijuana, which is located across from San Diego, California, and walked from the highway into the city in massive waves of people, their belongings on their backs. They joined more than 750 other caravan members who had traveled ahead and reached the city in recent days. The full caravan, some 5,500 migrants in all, was expected to continue arriving in Tijuana in the coming hours, thanks to buses organized by charities, private donors, and local authorities, with the last groups reaching the city by Friday. Across the border, nearly 6,000 troops deployed by Donald Trump have been busy erecting concrete barriers and razor-wired fences to deter what the U.S. president has described as an invasion. The migrants are mostly fleeing poverty and unrest in Central America's Northern Triangle, El Salvador, Guatemala, and Honduras, where brutal gang violence has fueled some of the highest murder rates in the world. Hundreds of Tijuana residents protested overnight at Friendship Park, a beachside square where the migrants have set up camp along the fence between Mexico and the United States. Mexican Interior Minister Alfonso Navarrete said the protest was fueled by rumors that the migrants had refused food, shelter, and clothing donated by local residents and urged Mexicans not to criminalize the caravan. Migrant rights activists said some migrants did in fact refuse to register at the shelter set up in Tijuana, fearful the authorities would pass their names to the United States. The caravan began its journey on October 13 in San Pedro Sula, Honduras, more than 2,700 miles from Tijuana. When we come back, we will get to know a young Filipino harpist who shares with Eagle News the story behind her passion for music and her love for the church. Eagle News Washington, D.C. will return shortly. This is Eagle News, Washington, D.C. I am Rose Papa Angeles. A young Filipino harpist from Irvine, California speaks to Eagle News and shares with us how in love she is with the harp, how her family unconditionally supports her passion for music, and to whom she dedicates her talent. Here's her story.
It's just another typical start of the day for 22-year-old Danielle Yuson. A quick breakfast, a once-over in the mirror, then it's out the door. But waiting for her on the other side is what makes her story one of note.
So we just made it to, I don't know, Newark Penn Station apparently. And we're gonna take the subway to, where are we going?
New York!
Yes, that's right.
New York, New York.
Danielle's journey to the Big Apple started from, of all places, on a chair and with a harp. Her love of the arts would eventually land her a position in the Iglesia Ni Cristo's oratorio to be held at the famed Lincoln Center in New York. The oldest child of Art and Janice Yuson, Danielle, along with her two siblings, learned to appreciate music at an early age.
Me and my husband wanted to have a firstborn, a girl. When we had our our kids, we didn't think that they're gonna be playing instruments at all. But when I grew up as a choir, and I wanted to be an organist, but I never had a chance. So before I had my family, and I told to myself, if my kids wanted to play an instrument or to be an organist in the choir, I would support them.
What was it like helping her get to all of her harp lessons, finding harp instructors, challenges, victory, successes? What was that like?
When she started to play out, going out of town, that's the time we need to find a harp to rent, or maybe transport the harp from one place to the other. We were joking like, oh, next time you just play the harmonic. She can put it in her purse and then go and play.
Is it expensive?
Yes.
Yes.
What is one important lesson for you that you'd like your daughter to take away from this experience?
Make sure being humble. Her talent did not come from us, did not come from herself. Her talent came from God, and use that to praise Him.
Dinner time at the Yusun table provided an opportunity to get to know Dylan and Dustine and to find out what they thought of their big sister. What are your interests, hobbies in life?
Well, I play sports and do a lot of activities in the church.
What do you like to do? What are your interests, your hobbies?
I like to read and talk to my friends.
Well, it's good to have friends. Do you ever read to your friends?
No.
What is one little known fact about the harp?
If you play it a certain way, you can make it sound like a bell.
Oh.
Yes.
That had no idea. Okay. Now I'm going to turn to your brother and sister. Little known fact about Danielle.
She likes to sew and make dresses. And one time she made the dress for one of the orchestra performances for the EVM Awards.
What impresses you the most about your sister?
Well, she's had a lot of pressure around her, and she's been really active on her harp around the church, so I wanted to be active in my faith.
To see for ourselves how Danielle performs under pressure, we asked her to teach harp basics to a musically challenged member of our crew.
Cooler. But still, this finger still. So we're gonna start here, and then that one, and that one.
Can you do that
and
individually?
We'll kind of trade it off, yeah.
Having done everything in her power to help, Danielle decided to retire from teaching, but still graciously allowed me to ask her a few parting questions.
Since not a lot of people play harp and they see me actually playing, or even just seeing me rolling around the harp, they kind of gasp. First of all, they're like, oh, it's the harp. And there are its pros and cons. Definitely, I like being able to show people, the harp exists. It's not like a super old instrument that no one plays anymore, but also it makes me a little bit shy because everyone's staring at me like lugging around this giant instrument. Through the church, we were able to be granted this opportunity, and it makes us all the more strive to perfect ourselves and strive to keep practicing and to do better, because we want to live up to the name of the Lincoln Center of Geffen Hall, to be able to represent the Church of Christ as musicians. Since I've been exposed to other harpists, I know I have so much more to improve on, but it definitely takes a lot of practice, a lot of love, and a lot of sacrifice. It is my faith that the talent I have, any talent that I might have, is definitely a talent given to me by God. So of course, if any opportunity provided by the church administration comes up for me to use this talent, of course I would do my best to be able to use my talent in serving. So I want to be able to play for a bigger purpose, and when it comes to performing for more known venues, for a bigger audience, to be able to make the church known that, this is where my inspiration, my faith comes from. And I want you all to know that this exists.
For Danielle, this trip is her first time on the East Coast. And while the sparkle of the big city might be alluring to others, She is decidedly set on keeping her identity, uninterested in changing the core parts of her character, not even for a New York minute. Alan Basoyahe, EBC News. I'm one with 25.
22-year-old Danielle Yuson, along with dozens of other musicians from all over the world, is a member of the Iglesia Ni Cristo Symphony Orchestra and will play for the first time at the David Geffen Hall of the Lincoln Center in New York on Sunday, November 25th for a church-produced oratorio performance. Stay tuned to Eagle News this whole week as we get to know more musicians involved in this production. That is today's Eagle News, Washington, D.C. Join us again tomorrow for stories that matter to you. Visit our websites at Eaglenews.PH and Eaglenewslive.com. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/EagleNewsPH. Thank you for watching. I am Rose Papa Angeles, and I am one with 25.